This tentative deal in the United States Senate moves forward President Obama's economic recovery plan. The breakthrough came after more pressure from the president. For the third straight day, he used the word catastrophe, saying that this financial crisis can become a catastrophe if the U.S. Congress does not move forward on his plan. But the White House is trying to be very cautious about this breakthrough. They realize it's unclear still whether there'll be enough votes to actually pass it over the weekend. So White House spokesman Robert Gibbs put out a statement saying, quote, "On the day when we learned 3.6 million people have lost their jobs since this recession began, we are pleased the process is moving forward and we are closer to getting Americans a plan to create millions of jobs and get people back to work." That is the key. That statement from Robert Gibbs noting that the president has promised to create or save 3 to 4 million jobs in the U.S. over the first 2 years of his young administration. This is obviously issue number one for the president. And while there have been a lot of changes to the bill he was originally proposing, the core of it still has President Obama's fingerprints all over it. For example, it has a tax cut for any household earning under $200,000 a year in the U.S., specifically a $500 tax credit for individuals, $1,000 for families. There's also a lot of money on energy initiatives, so-called green jobs that the president has been talking about, renewable energy projects, $11 billion for a new electric grid in the United States, $6.5 billion for updated power lines. So some of his key initiatives are still in there, and this is at least a partial victory because the president has been using a lot of political capital to get this through what is a Democratic Congress. It passed initially in the House with no Republican votes, some Democrats jumping ship as well. Now in the Senate, it's going to be very closely watched exactly how many Republicans he can pull in. The president has been making great promises about making this a bipartisan effort. This is going to be the first real test of how much clout he has on Capitol Hill. But more importantly, moving forward, this is going to be the first big test about whether or not he can help the American people in the middle of a crisis. And the president realizes that even if this gets through the Senate this weekend, it still has to get through more hurdles in the U.S. House, and that's why he's going to be hitting the road next week for his first real domestic trips as U.S. president. On Monday, he's going to be going to the state of Indiana for a town hall meeting. Then Tuesday, the critical battleground state of Florida as well for a town hall meeting. Both those states have been really hard hit by job losses, and so the president's sort of launching these campaign-style events to try to bring back some of the energy, some of the intensity of the U.S. presidential campaign to this effort to sell his stimulus plan. Ed Henry, CNN, the White House.